You're not being delayed, you're being prepared. When it's God's will, no force on earth can stop it. Let me ask you a question that could change your life. What if the delay you're frustrated by is actually the preparation for a breakthrough you're not ready for yet? Listen carefully, because this message is not just information, it's transformation. Right now, you may feel stuck. You've been waiting, working, praying, yet nothing seems to move. The doors stay closed. The calls don't come. The opportunities vanish as fast as they appear. But here's the truth. What is truly meant for you cannot miss you. Not if you remain faithful. Not if you keep preparing in the silence. Why? Because when it's God's will, nothing, absolutely nothing can stop it. It's not the critics, not the economy, not the delays, not even your past mistakes. Now understand this. Desire on its own is just longing. But desire fused with faith in God's purpose becomes a force that pulls destiny into your hands. You must believe that you are being guided, that even in your stillest seasons, God is at work. He is aligning the right people, the right timing, and the right path for your breakthrough. But here's where many fall short. They mistake waiting for wasting time. They grow restless. They give up too early. Don't be one of them. Every great man or woman of destiny has been shaped in the quiet, in the hidden, in the slow. Stillness is not an action. It is the most strategic action when it is grounded in faith. You are not just waiting, you are growing, you are learning, you are becoming. Now hear me, you don't need to chase every opportunity. You don't need to strive, beg, or manipulate your way to the top. If God wants it to happen, He will move heaven and earth to place you exactly where you need to be. So hold fast, stand strong, trust deeper. Because when the time comes, your preparation will meet His divine will, and nothing will be able to stop it. This is not just a philosophical truth, it is a spiritual law. When your desire rises from within you, not as a selfish craving, but as a deep, burning vision that serves something greater than yourself, you tap into a power that cannot be stopped. It's the difference between wishing for something and knowing that you were born to fulfill it. That kind of desire doesn't fade when you're tired. It doesn't retreat when life pushes back. It stands tall because it draws its strength from a higher place, God's will. This kind of desire is not about fleeting emotions or temporary goals. It is a sustained, resilient pull in your spirit that keeps pressing forward even when the world says no. It becomes part of your identity, part of your calling. Take, for example, a young woman who dreams of becoming a doctor. She doesn't just want the title or the income. Her desire is rooted in service, in healing, in bringing hope to those in pain. Her passion to learn, to study, to endure sleepless nights isn't driven by ego, it's driven by purpose. And in that alignment, she begins to find doors opening that no one else around her sees. Scholarships appear where others find rejection. Mentors come into her life as if sent by providence. Even when she fails an exam or hits a wall, something in her spirit refuses to quit. Why? Because her desire has transcended ambition. It has become a mission. And missions that align with God's purpose are never in vain. They may take time. They may demand sacrifice, but they cannot be denied. Or picture a man who grew up in poverty with no connections, no guidance, and every reason to settle for less. Yet from a young age, he carries within him a deep desire to build a business, not to hoard wealth, but to create jobs, to elevate others, to pour back into the community that raised him. This desire is more than material. It is spiritual. It's his way of partnering with God to bring light into dark places. And while others fall away, discouraged by setbacks, he keeps going. Not because he is stronger, but because his strength is being multiplied by something beyond himself. Every setback becomes a setup. Every rejection becomes redirection. His path wins through hardship, but it doesn't stop because the desire is God-given, and God doesn't abandon what He ordains. In both examples, the key is not just desire, but desire that is purified, refined, and aligned with something bigger than self. It's not about demanding things from God. It's about partnering with God's vision for your life. When that happens, even delays become part of the design. Even closed doors serve a purpose. What once looked like failure becomes the very foundation for something greater. Because when your desire aligns with divine will, resistance becomes fuel, not friction. The world may not understand it. People may doubt you. Circumstances may seem impossible. But something inside keeps you moving, keeps you trusting, keeps you becoming. That is the unstoppable force of a life driven by divine desire. This is a truth that few understand at first because obstacles often arrive wearing the mask of failure. They look like rejection letters, financial setbacks, broken relationships, missed opportunities, or doors that slam shut when you thought they were finally opening. But in reality, these moments are not meant to stop you, they are meant to shape you. Every great life, every towering success, every meaningful legacy is marked not by ease, but by endurance through difficulty. God often uses adversity not to punish, but to prepare. The heat of struggle is what forges character. The friction of resistance is what sharpens clarity, and the repeated testing of your will is what strengthens your faith. Obstacles force you to look inward, to confront your weaknesses, to strip away distractions, and to grow in ways you never would if the path were always smooth. Consider the story of a man who dreams of starting his own company. He works long nights, pours his savings into a product he believes in, and launches it with hope. But instead of success, he's met with silence. The market doesn't respond. Investors pass. Bills pile up. Friends begin to question his decisions. He feels like he's hit a wall. But what he doesn't see yet is that this wall is not the end, it's the beginning of refinement. In the silence, he starts to notice flaws in his strategy he once overlooked. He learns more about his audience. He becomes more resilient, more creative, more adaptable. Through failure, he discovers his true strengths and retools his vision. The obstacle that seemed to block his way becomes the pressure that purifies his purpose. He emerges not just with a better plan, but with a stronger, more prepared version of himself. Or picture a woman who feels called to speak, to lead, to inspire others. She steps forward full of fire and faith, only to be met with criticism, exclusion, and painful detours. Doors don't open as expected. Opportunities go to others with more connections, less integrity. She wonders if she misunderstood her calling. But what she doesn't realize is that every no is teaching her how to stand in her identity without validation. Every setback is deepening her message, stripping her ego, refining her motives. She begins to speak with more power, not because she's more popular, but because she's been pressed by life into something real. Her voice carries weight because it was born in the wilderness, not the spotlight. The obstacles did not derail her, they developed her. In these ways and countless others, life proves again and again that what appears to be resistance is often divine refinement. The moments that frustrate you most are often the ones doing the most internal work. They stretch your patience, expose your pride, and deepen your humility. You become wiser, not through comfort, but through challenge. You become ready, not through ease, but through endurance. And you begin to see that what you once called a delay was actually God's way of preparing you for something your unrefined self could not yet carry. In a world obsessed with noise, speed, and constant action, stillness is often mistaken for passivity or indecision. But real stillness, the kind rooted in faith and discipline, is one of the highest forms of strength. It's the ability to wait without wavering, to trust without seeing, and to hold your ground when everything in you wants to rush forward or run away. Stillness is not the absence of motion, it is the presence of focused intention. It's the inner poise that says, I don't have to prove anything right now because I know what I carry. It's not laziness, it's not fear. It's the deliberate decision to move only when the time is right, when the direction is clear, and when the spirit is settled. That kind of power doesn't need to shout, rush, or force. It simply waits like a lion crouched before the pounce because it knows its moment is coming. Imagine a man preparing for a major career change. He feels the pull to step into a new chapter, maybe a calling, a business, a move to something that demands risk and faith. Everything inside him wants to leap immediately. But something deeper tells him to pause, to prepare, to stay hidden just a little longer. In that stillness, while others race ahead chasing quick results, he quietly builds. He reads, he plans, he sharpens his skills. He listens for God's voice instead of demanding answers. To the outside world, it looks like he's stalling, falling behind, wasting time. But he knows better. He is not being idle, he is being intentional. And when the moment finally comes, he launches with such precision and power that it shocks those who had once overlooked him. What they thought was stagnation was really strategy. What looked like delay was actually divine timing unfolding beneath the surface. Or consider a young woman who's gone through heartbreak, loss, and confusion about her purpose. The temptation to fill the silence with distractions is overwhelming. She could dive into another relationship, throw herself into busyness, or numb her pain with temporary escapes. But instead, she chooses stillness. She sits with her questions. She opens her heart in prayer. She journaling, reads scripture, and lets the silence teach her. To others, she may seem distant, detached, even weak. But what they don't see is the quiet fire forming inside her. Her stillness is not retreat, it's recovery. It's restoration. It's the sacred rebuilding of her identity from the inside out. And when she reemerges, she carries a peace and presence that no storm can shake. She has learned to move not out of fear, but from strength rooted in the stillness that most people run from. Stillness like this is rare because it requires deep trust. It requires you to surrender control, to stop forcing outcomes, and to believe that what is meant for you will not pass you by. It's easier to stay busy, to chase after every opportunity, to respond to every voice. But stillness teaches you to respond only to the right voice, the still, small one that leads you to where you're truly meant to be. It teaches you that not every open door is your door, not every invitation is your assignment, and not every battle is yours to fight. In that sacred restraint, you find clarity. In that space between impulse and action, you gain wisdom. And in that deliberate pause, you discover that power does not always roar, it often whispers, waits, and watches until the exact moment to rise. It is the unseen bridge between what is and what can be, the internal assurance that what you hope for is already in motion, even if you cannot yet perceive it. Faith is not wishful thinking or blind optimism. It is a confident expectation grounded in trust, not in your ability, but in God's sovereignty. When you live by faith, you no longer measure progress by what you see. You measure it by what you believe. That belief becomes a signal, a spiritual alignment that positions you to receive at the exact moment the door is meant to open. Divine timing rarely operates according to our clocks or calendars. It doesn't yield to impatience or pressure, but it is always precise. And faith is what keeps you steady during the wait. It's what whispers, "Keep going," when nothing is working. It's what anchors your steps when the path disappears. It doesn't remove the uncertainty, but it gives you peace within it. Picture a man who's been applying for jobs month after month, each rejection chipping away at his confidence. His savings are shrinking. His friends are moving forward in life. On paper, he's done everything right. He's qualified, prepared, persistent, but still the doors stay shut. He's tempted to give up, to settle for something beneath his calling, to assume that maybe it wasn't meant to be. But deep in his spirit, he holds on to faith. Not faith in the system, not faith in chance, but faith that God's timing is not delayed, it is deliberate. So he keeps preparing as if the call will come tomorrow. He refines his resume again. He improves his skills. He shows up every day as if the breakthrough is already scheduled. And then, when he least expects it, the opportunity arrives. But not just any opportunity, the right one. The one that matches his purpose, values, and preparation. That door could not have opened a moment sooner because he would not have been ready. It wasn't the hustle that activated that moment. It was the quiet force of faith that refused to give up in the dark. Or think of a woman who feels called to be a mother but faces years of infertility. Every month, hope rises only to crash again. She watches others celebrate the very thing she longs for. The grief is silent but heavy. It would be easy to become bitter, to harden her heart, to stop praying. But her faith keeps her soft. She decorates the nursery even though it's empty. She speaks life over her womb. She surrounds herself with promise rather than despair. Every act of faith becomes a seed planted into the soil of God's timing. Then years later, the impossible happens. A child, not through chance, but through divine orchestration. And suddenly, all the waiting makes sense, not because she earned it, but because her faith kept her in position. Divine timing was not denying her, it was preparing her. and her faith was the invisible force that held everything together until the appointed time. Faith does not make things easier, it makes them possible. It is the currency of the unseen, the language of trust when logic fails. It sustains you when nothing else can. It tells you to build the ark before there's rain. It tells you to walk toward the sea before it parts. It asks you to plant, to prepare, to believe, even when nothing looks like it's working. And it is in that obedience, in that quiet confidence, that divine timing unfolds with breathtaking precision. Faith is not passive. It is the most active force in the unseen realm, calling things that are not as though they were, holding the line until heaven moves. These two qualities, when woven together, form the backbone of a life that is unshakable. Persistence is the refusal to give up, the grit that drives you to keep going despite fatigue, discouragement, or failure. Patience, on the other hand, is the grace to wait without complaining, to trust without forcing outcomes, to believe without panic. On their own, each has power, but when combined, they produce something far deeper, spiritual maturity. This maturity doesn't come from age, titles, or years in the faith. It comes from the internal strength formed through trials that didn't break you, seasons that didn't rush you, and challenges that didn't defeat you. It's built when you learn how to keep showing up even when results are invisible. It's formed when you surrender your timeline and keep your heart soft while walking through uncertainty. Together, persistence and patience develop a person who is not only strong, but wise, steady, and aligned with divine timing. Consider the example of a man building a ministry from the ground up. He knows the calling is real, the vision is clear, and the passion burns inside him. But when he launches, few people show up. He preaches with conviction, but the seats stay empty. The offerings are small, the growth is slow. Week after week, he questions if he missed God. But rather than quit, he persists. He continues to serve, to study, to preach like the room is full. He doesn't manipulate the process or chase popularity. Instead, he couples his persistence with patience. He trusts that the foundation he's laying will bear fruit in time. Months turn into years. Then one day, the breakthrough comes not as a sudden explosion, but as the natural result of steady faithfulness. People begin to respond. His message deepens. His reach expands. And when others call it an overnight success, he smiles because he knows it was neither quick nor easy. It was the slow, sacred work of persistence refined by patience that built something worth sustaining. Or think of a woman pursuing a lifelong dream to publish a book. She writes late into the night, revises drafts, faces rejection after rejection from publishers. Each no is a blow to the ego. Each delay tests her resolve. She could walk away, tell herself it wasn't meant to be. But she doesn't. She persists not blindly, but intentionally. She improves her craft, she studies the market, she listens to feedback. At the same time, she doesn't rush the process. She resists the urge to self-publish out of desperation or to compromise her message for quick approval. Her patience allows the message to mature, her voice to strengthen, and eventually the right door opens, the book is published. But more than the book itself, what she carries now is depth wisdom earned through the process. She's not just an author, she's a messenger shaped by the journey, not just the destination. Spiritual maturity is never microwave made. It is cultivated in the long, often silent seasons of preparation. It's in the persistence of prayer when answers are slow. It's in the patience to forgive when others don't change. It's in the repeated decision to believe when emotions scream otherwise. And it's in those moments when you learn that true growth isn't measured by how fast you succeed, but by how deeply you trust, how faithfully you endure, and how gracefully you wait while still pressing forward. Persistence without patience can make you force doors open prematurely. Patience without persistence can lull you into inaction. But together they mold you into a vessel capable of carrying purpose without breaking, influence without arrogance, and blessing without forgetting where it came from. This is not just a comforting phrase, it is a spiritual principle rooted in divine authority. When God decides to elevate you, position you, or bring you into a new chapter of your life, it doesn't matter who stands against you. It doesn't matter what obstacles are in the way, what voices try to disqualify you, or how impossible it looks from the outside. If the door has been opened by God, it is not subject to human opinion, manipulation, or interference. People may try to block your path, delay your progress, or slander your name, but they do not hold the keys to your destiny. God does. And when the time is right, that door will swing open, not because you forced it, but because heaven ordained it. What was once out of reach becomes available, not by your striving, but by divine favor. This truth allows you to walk in boldness without arrogance and humility without insecurity, knowing that your breakthrough is sealed by something higher than circumstance. Take the story of a man who spent years in a low-level position at a company. He worked with integrity, gave his best, and stayed faithful even when his efforts went unnoticed. Others were promoted ahead of him, some less qualified, others more connected. He watched as doors opened for everyone but him. There were moments of deep discouragement, but he didn't let bitterness take root. He continued to serve with excellence, believing that what God had for him could not be stolen by politics or favoritism. Then, without warning, a leadership shift occurred. A vacancy opened unexpectedly, and instead of searching externally, the executives promoted him. Not because he campaigned for it, but because his years of quiet faithfulness had not gone unnoticed by the one who sees all. What once seemed closed indefinitely became a door flung wide open, because when it was God's time, no resistance could hold it shut. Or consider a woman who had a passion for music, but spent years in obscurity. She played in small churches, recorded songs on her own dime, and faced constant rejection from the industry. She didn't chase trends or compromise her message. Instead, she stayed true to her calling, refining her gift in the secret place. People told her it was too late, that her moment had passed, that the market was too saturated. But then one opportunity came, a small open door to perform at a conference. That one moment led to a chain reaction. People heard her heart, not just her talent. Doors she had knocked on for years now began to open on their own. Not because she changed to fit the world, but because God decided it was time. And when he opened the door, all the years of obscurity suddenly made sense. The right connections, the right platform, and the right timing all aligned, not through striving, but through submission. These examples reveal a truth many overlook. Divine doors don't require force, only faithfulness. They often open after seasons of delay, disappointment, or seeming silence, not because God forgot, but because he was preparing both you and the environment to intersect at the appointed time. When that alignment occurs, the door opens with ease, not because there was no resistance, but because the authority behind the opening is greater than any opposition. When God opens a door, it doesn't need your manipulation or anyone else's approval. It doesn't matter how unlikely it looks or how long it's been closed. If it's his will, no man, no system, no circumstance can prevent it from opening at exactly the right moment. So let this truth settle deep into your spirit. If the vision is God-given, the process is God-governed, and the outcome is God-ordained. Your responsibility is not to pry open doors that aren't ready, nor to panic when doors appear shut. Your calling is to remain faithful, to walk with integrity, to prepare as if the door is already opening, because in the realm of divine timing it already has. What God has authored for your life is not subject to the approval or permission of man. The delays are not denials, they are divine developments. The opposition is not your undoing, it is part of your shaping. And the silence is not absence, it's alignment. Stand firm, stay faithful, and trust this. When God opens the door, it will not just lead you forward, it will launch you into the very purpose you were created for.